Hey there, second grade scientists! My name is Miss Haversick, and I'm so excited because today is the first day of science class. I am so excited, in fact, that I put on my lab coat, I have my science gear here, and I have my handy-dandy notebook. Are you ready for science class? If not, pause this video and grab a notebook and something to write with. It's going to come in handy to keep track of all of the things that we're learning, and we'll get to do some interactive things. That means we'll get to do learning together. So go ahead, pause this video, and get your science gear. Now that you're ready, let's talk about what we're going to learn in science class. First, we're going to talk about living things. Whoa. Now, why is it so important for us to learn about living things? Let's think about it. Well, you might be thinking, Miss Haversick, I know, I'm a living thing. You're right. We, as people, are living things. And it's so important for us to learn about living things because we are living things. And when we learn about living things, it helps us to take care of ourselves and all of the world around us. So I know that you're probably already an expert on living things, since you are one. And last year in first grade, you learned all about the difference between living and non-living things. Now, if you forget a little bit of what we learned in first grade, that's totally okay, because today is all about remembering what is the difference between a living thing and a non-living thing. Well, maybe we could think about it by looking at the things that we see around us. Go ahead, take a minute, look around you, grab your notebook, and let's make a list of some of the living things that we see right now. I'm looking out my window and I see some living things. I see one of my friends running. So I see a person. I also see there's a tree. That's a living thing. And I see, there's a little bunny. Look at that. That's a living thing. Now, I'm going to make my list nice and big on my whiteboard here so that you can see these living things. Go ahead, while I'm writing on the board, make your own list of living things that you see. So I see a person. That's the first thing I see. I see a tree. That's a living thing. And I see a bunny. Now, I've been saying that these are living things, but you might be wondering, how do we know if it's a living thing? Well, to think about that, let's review by reading one of my favorite books. It's called Living and Non-Living. While we read this book, it's going to help us think about how do we know what is living and how do we know what is non-living. Let's read it together. This book is a compare and contrast book by Kevin Kurtz. Living and non-living things. Everywhere you go, you will see living things. Everywhere you go, you will see non-living things. Aren't these pictures really cool? They're showing us some living things and non-living things. Living things, non-living things. How are they different from each other? This page has living things. This page has non-living things. Can you tell the difference? Are Are living things the only things that move? All of these living things move. Not necessarily. Some non-living things move, while some living things cannot. So these are all non-living things and they're moving. And these are living things that they don't move very fast. Are living things the only things that grow and change? Wow, yeah, look at that. They're really growing and changing over time. All living things do grow and change. Wow, okay, that's really important. We have to remember, living things grow and change. I think that's gonna come into play later. But some non-living things grow and change too. Okay. Are living things the only things that reproduce? Do only living things make babies? Or seeds? Or copies of themselves? So all of these living things reproduce. So we know living things grow and they reproduce. We learned that so far. Some non-living things can also make copies of themselves. Okay, fire grows, but it's kind of not the same thing as animals having babies or plants making seeds. And though almost all living things can reproduce, some living things like mules and male ligers cannot. Are living things the only things that need food? That need water and breathe oxygen? All living things do need energy, nutrients, and water to exist. Many of them also need to breathe oxygen to exist. Whoa, that page is giving us a lot of information about living things. We'll definitely cover this again in another lesson. Let's just keep reading the book for now. But this non-living thing also needs food and oxygen to exist. It's talking about fire. This non-living thing cannot exist without always getting water from its environment. And some living things, like these microbes, are poisoned by oxygen. They breathe other things, like sulfur and even iron. Wow, our world is so complex, it's so hard to understand. So thankful we have scientists like you and me to figure this out. So how are living things different from non-living things? I really want to know. Not even scientists have a perfect answer. We're all still figuring it out. But if something does all these things, then it is probably a living thing. Breathe, drink water, take energy and nutrients from its environment, reproduce, grow, and change. That's a pretty important page right there. It's telling us all about what living things do. So, that was a lot of information. And we're definitely going to talk more about all the things that living things need. But let's just focus on, how do we know if something is living or non-living? After reading that book, I picked up on two really important things that can help us tell the difference between a living and non-living thing. The first one is that I learned that living things grow. Right? Think about it. We are living things. We already know that. Are you the same size as you were when you were a baby? I know I'm not. I have definitely grown since then. The other thing that helps us know if something is living or non-living is if it reproduces. And reproduces means that this living thing makes more living things. So, like when your parents had you, that was reproducing because it made another person. So we are living things because we grow and reproduce. Do that with me. Get up out of your seat and let's practice. Living things grow and reproduce. Like you're rocking a baby. And we are growing and reproducing. So let's see if we can kind of apply this to the living things that we looked at earlier. Grab your list and do this with me. We just talked about people. We know that a person is a living thing because a person grows and reproduces. So we know that's living. What about a tree? Well, trees don't just start out really big, right? We have to start by planting a seed, and then the seed will get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and it's growing. So trees grow, but do trees reproduce? Well, yes, they do. Trees, once they are all grown, they send off more seeds that will also grow into trees. So trees reproduce by sending off more seeds. Since trees grow and reproduce, we know that they are a living thing. Last on our list, a bunny. Well, I know that bunnies don't stay super tiny and cute like they do when we see them in the springtime. They grow into big rabbits. So that's the first thing. Bunnies do grow, and they have more bunnies. That's what makes those little baby bunnies. So they reproduce. They make more living things. So since bunnies grow and reproduce, we can check off that they are also living things. So this is a lot of information, but you're a second grade scientist. I know you got this. Let's review. We know that something is living if it grows and reproduces. That means growing means that it changes. It gets bigger or it starts to look different throughout its lifetime. That means it grows. And reproduce means that this living thing makes other living things. As always, there are some exceptions, things that don't follow these rules, but in general, living things grow and reproduce. And we saw that living things do this by checking our list. We kind of know what's living and non-living, but using a list and thinking about does it grow? Does it reproduce? Helps us really figure out if what we're looking at is living or non-living. I know that you are probably an expert now. You're a super second grade scientist, and I can't wait to see how much you learned today. You get to put your science skills to the test on Google Classroom. Under this video, you're going to see a fun assignment, an activity that you get to do, where you figure out, is this a picture of something that is living or non-living? If you're having a hard time figuring it out, think about what we just went through. We know that living things grow and reproduce. So if that picture can grow and reproduce, then you know it's probably a living thing. In that case, you will drag the red circle and put it over living. If the picture is a picture of something that doesn't grow or doesn't reproduce, then you drag the circle onto non-living. Second grade scientists, I hope that you had so much fun learning with me today and that you have so much fun sorting through living and non-living things. I can't wait to see you again tomorrow and learn more about what keeps living things alive. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, but keep your curiosity flowing. I can't wait to learn more about living things with you. Have a great time figuring out the difference between living and non-living things. See you next time.